Currently, Apex has a meta which is driving people insane, where a team will have an altar, a ballistic, and an ash, and all of them will have 2 devotions each. Respawn have tried to nerf this meta, but it's not working, and people are asking for more nerfs, because you can simply do this as ballistic and then shoot devotions without stopping for 30 seconds. But this meta here isn't the worst meta to ever hit Apex by far, so let's go over some of the most toxic Apex metas ever. And somehow most of them are powered by just one legend. Starting off back in Season 9, we had one of the most whimsical metas, which is now impossible because one of the abilities required has been removed. And this was the Revane meta, which required an Octane and a Revenant. The way this meta worked was upon spotting an enemy team, the Revenant would place down his totem, all of the team would activate the totem, and then the Octane would place down a jump pad. After that, the whole team would take the jump pad and start attacking their enemy team upon landing. And because the attacking team were in shadow form, it allowed them to be really aggressive because whenever they took enough damage, they were just teleported back to the totem, which allowed them to make a second jump at the enemy team, which was just super powerful and oppressive because essentially the enemy team fighting the Revane meta had to fight 2 waves of one team. And like I mentioned prior, this isn't possible anymore because Revenant's totem was replaced with his Forged Shadows ultimate. And if you're not aware, Revenant's totem basically acted as a second chance where you could activate the totem, go fight enemies, take like 60 damage, and then be teleported back to the totem with most of your health intact. This meta was mad annoying, and it was that annoying in Season 10, Respawn addressed it by specifically nerfing the Revane meta. And this was one of the most iconic metas. One of the most horrifying and annoying metas though was the Seer meta. When Seer first came out, he was far too powerful, and pretty much every aspect of his kit today has been nerfed from when it was originally released, including his passive range, ultimate, but mainly his tactical. This thing used to be disgusting when it released. Now when you get hit by it, you're silenced and scanned. But at Seer's release, when you were hit by his tactical, you were flashbanged, had your abilities silenced, had any heals or revives you were doing cancelled, and also on top of all of that, you were hit with 10 damage, which means people actually got kills with the Seer tactical. Oh yeah, and did I mention, it deployed really fast, so when Seer was released, he was insane. Not only because he was really fun to use and basically just steamrolled any enemy who was trying to hide from him, but also when you got hit by his tactical, it was like a sensory overload. A few weeks after Seer was released though, he was nerfed and everybody forgot about him. You know, until the ALGS in Rally, where suddenly he became the most popular legend in the game again, with absolutely no changes. Yeah, this guy was so OP. Even after the nerf, he had a second wind and came back and dominated that game again. No more Seer metas please, it will make any Apex player start convulsing. Not all of the metas were used in the competitive scene of Apex though, because there were some fun ones, like Rampart and Crypto, as back in Season 7, people discovered something a bit silly. You could place stuff on Crypto's drone, including Rampart's whole minigun, which allowed Apex players to make their own air force of Ramparts on crypto drones. Yes, it's needless to say that this was nerfed pretty quickly, and it was a bit of a meme meta, because truly, if you're against high skill players, the Rampart flying around in the air is probably at the disadvantage. In this exact same season, Horizon had also been released to the game, and she was the true meta of this season. Season 7 had the Horizon meta because her tactical was so damn powerful. If you strafed at the top of your tactical, you would be near impossible to hit, and you could just rain down hell on your enemies. And trust me, you may think you're some sort of movement god strafing at the top of your Horizon tac today, but back in the day, it was something else. The one we have today is but a remnant of how OP it used to be. And the thing about the Horizon meta was, Respawn tried to nerf it, but it took them several nerfs to finally get people to stop abusing the strafes at the top of her tac. I think these days this meta would not fly because Apex players are a lot more skilled and can probably dispatch of somebody just floating in the air a lot easier. Although I don't miss firing at Horizons who are strafing like this, I do not miss it. Let's swing back to Revenant though, because he seems to be the guy involved in the most toxic metas, and we had another toxic Revenant meta in Season 20, and it involved Revenant and also Conduit. And this meta turned Apex from a shooter into Elden Ring, because you would have to fight a boss with loads of HP. As people discovered, Revenant's Forged Shadows ultimate gave him a lot of HP and already made him pretty tanky. But if you combined Revenant's ultimate with Conduit's tactical, you could make a Revenant who could take up to 300 damage and still be standing. As if Revenant's second shield got broken, the Conduit could just tactical him and then the shield would charge up really quickly and bring Revenant back into the fight. This meta essentially had the whole team supporting one tank who would do their bidding, and people hated this meta because they called it low skill, as it essentially allowed low skill players to go without punishment. And trust me, this meta would not fly today because of the time to kill changes. This meta was back in the day where red shields were easy to get and weapons did a lot less damage. Speaking of legends who are reoccurring characters in annoying metas, Seer actually came back in season 16 for his third round of being everyone's least favourite legend. As back in season 16, people discovered if you combined Catalyst's wall and Seer's ultimate, you could actually see people on the other side of the wall and just shoot them through their Catalyst wall. It was so easy. So immediately, pro games started looking like Fortnite, as a Catalyst would throw up a wall, a Seer would throw down his ultimate, and then if enemies moved on the other side of the wall, they would be lasered. Apex turned into Jurassic Park.
Keep absolutely still. This vision's based on movement.
If you wanted to be super annoying in this Seer Catalyst meta, you could add a Bangalore onto your team, who would deploy smoke, which would also be powerful in a Seer ultimate. And if you wanted to be super horrible in this meta, you could equip a digi-threat to whatever gun you were using, and then just laser people through the smoke. This meta was toxic, and it's the reason why the digi-threat has been removed, and also Seer has been further nerfed, and Catalyst isn't really played much anymore. We've been talking about relatively recent metas though, so what was the meta when Apex first came out? Well, you've probably forgotten by now, but let me run your memory and also probably a little PTSD. Essentially, the meta for anybody who tried to look like they were good at the game was to pick up a wingman and also play Wraith. And the meta was to simply absolutely spam the wingman because it had a crazy rate of fire along with crazy damage, and also play Wraith who could hop into her phase pretty much instantly. This was back in the early days where Apex pretty much had Titanfall balancing, so it wasn't really considered that Wraith probably shouldn't be able to phase away from trouble instantly in a game where bad plays should be punished. Also back in the day, Caustic used to dominate the game because his gas traps literally had no counter. You gotta remember, this is what the legend roster looks like back in the day. Pretty much none of these legends could counter Caustic compared to today, where quite a few of the legends could escape Caustic easily and get their team out of trouble. So Caustic was dominant, and if you were stuck in his gas, you couldn't do anything because you couldn't destroy his gas traps. Caustic was pretty much consistently picked in competitive games up until around season 7, where the game started supporting more types of playstyles with new legend abilities, items and maps. There's one meta though I was cautious about covering because the scars are still fresh. The support meta back in season 23. At the start of season 23, Lifeline saw a rework and the support class on a whole saw a load of new buffs, which allowed a viable playstyle to emerge. And this playstyle was literally just playing supports. The whole team just playing supports and constantly reviving each other. In higher level games in season 23, if you got into a fight, there was a real chance that half of the fight would be spent trying to kill people who were knocked and also dealing major damage to an enemy just for them to be fully healed about 3 seconds later. We do not miss this meta, and I think supports are in a good spot right now because Lifeline is genuinely fun to play and pretty powerful while not being the most annoying character in the game, which I think for a lot of Apex's history, she has been deemed as. But subscribe if you're ready for this meta to get nerfed.